matter?
Yeah.
It kind of does.
Does it?
Yeah. Yeah. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, will you? That's not what happened. Not what happened at all. Rudolph, as you can imagine, was a little bit bitter, and so he decided he was going to spoil some people's Christmas. So he cultured himself some E. coli, and he went down to the Beef and Brew on the east side of Christmastown, where reindeer families tended to congregate, especially around the holidays. And so for the 2 days before Christmas Eve, he dusted the salad bowl with E. coli. And he wanted to spoil his fellow reindeers and classmates' Christmas by making sure they were sick as dogs. And it
Sick
worked.
as dogs or sick as elves?
Well, yeah, sick as reindeer, I guess. so it succeeded. It went a little beyond his hopes, and he actually sickened about 90% of the reindeer population of Christmastown, which left Santa short of labor on Christmas Eve. So that the weather that day was not foggy. It was clear and cold, but Santa was short one deer, and so he didn't come to Rudolph and say, with your nose so bright, will you guide my sleigh tonight? He just basically said, Rudolph, with my team all sick.
I really need you, dude.
I need some help here, brother.
Rudolph. Yeah, and so Rudolph, he did not guide the sleigh. He was actually rear and on the right, and he didn't get the really choice position at the front. Yeah, and unfortunately for Rudolph, it did actually it earned him a little grudging admiration from the other reindeer, but it was only short-lived, and pretty soon they were back to their sick reindeer games and tormenting poor Rudolph again. So after that, his foray into guiding, or not guiding, but helping to pull Santa's sleigh, a little time went by, and eventually some forensic work was done. And they managed to figure out that Rudolph was actually the guy behind the poisoning. And I don't think I mentioned that besides a lot of people getting sick, several reindeer died from E. coli. E. coli kills people.
And it kills reindeer.
Yeah. So
and elves, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does. And it kills
Except
people.
for the densest elves.
Yeah.
Like Hermie.
After all this came out, Santa scratched his head, decided it would be a good idea to put Rudolph on trial for murder since he'd killed several reindeer. And he took it to the Elven DA's office, and they pointed out that since since people who died, or the reindeer who died, were not humans or elves, the most Rudolph could be charged with was poaching. Rudolph lawyered up. His attorney worked a deal with the prosecutor's office, and he wound up pleading guilty to 2 counts of first-degree poaching and 1 count of hunting without a license. Served a little over a year in the pen, and when he got out, he changed his name, and he moved to Presentburg, which is a seedy suburb of Christmastown. Yeah, it's just below Ribbentown. And he was never asked to guide Santa's sleigh again, for obvious reasons. But he eventually did all right. He wound up owning and operating a small chain of liquor stores. And after that, his fate is unknown. Oh, and last of all, his nickname was not Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It was Rudolph the Red, for the blood on his hands. So, yeah, blood on his clothes, yeah. So, another heartwarming Christmas tale. Any questions?
No, I don't think there's any questions in that obviously fantastical idea that you got there, Joe.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb.
Hey, are you questioning Professor Morgenthau? Professor Hans Morgenthau?
I'm not going to say that I am.
Yeah.
What I am going to say is that for all of our listeners, if you want to if you're listening to this episode on our website, which by the way is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com, you can always find the shows there and all of our research links. You can also go ahead and find us on iTunes. If you're there, take the time to leave a comment and a rating. We're also on Stitcher. We're on a lot of other apps and other sites, so there's a whole host of places that you can find us and stream us and download us. You can always go ahead and send us an email. That email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We've of course got the Twitter account, so find us Thinking Sideways. So we are there. And of course, Facebook. We all love Facebook, and we are on Facebook. We've got the Facebook page, we got the Facebook group, tons of people on there, great conversations. So find us, friend us, like us, all that good Christmas jazz.
Hey there.
And that's all of that good stuff. Now, I just gotta say right now, Joe, you're wrong. He
Well,
was
obviously
totally
he's wrong.
engineered. He was
No,
totally
I
engineered.
didn't
No,
say
he was-
engineered. He's an alien.
no,
Obviously,
he
he is a
was-
natural occurrence.
No,
Believing
he
they
was-
had
no,
cracked the
actually-
case. Like a Christmas chestnut, they went on and on like this into the night. Real. It never seemed to stop. Happy holidays to you and yours from the Thinking Sideways team.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Thinking Sideways, the podcast. As always, I am Steve, joined by my favorite hosts,
Devin.
Joe?
Yeah, favorite.
because there's no others.
the only
First
one.
comment. Okay.
Well, once again, as always, we have another mystery for you today.
This is a really groovy mystery.
It's a groovy mystery.
Oh, yeah.
It's got death and everything. This one was sent in to us by Terry. She sent it to us on the Facebook page, so thank you, Terry. Because what we're going to talk about today is a series of unsolved murders. Okay, well, the how is solved. The who and the why is not. And for anybody who hasn't read the episode title, what we're going to be talking about today are the Tylenol murders,
Yeah.
which happened in late September, early October of 1982. So here's our story. On the morning of September 29th, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman complained to her parents that she wasn't feeling so well. She had a sore throat. She died later that day.
With a sore throat?
You're give me a minute. You're a little ahead of the game there, sir.
I think that's a drink for all of our listeners who are playing the drinking game
A sore throat?
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're blowing it up. No.
Yeah. Okay, back to the story.
Sorry.
Okay. The same day, Adam Janus, or Janus, I'm not
I would say
quite
Janus.
sure, Janus, who was a postal worker, died of what appeared to be a massive heart attack.
And he was like 29, right?
Yeah, he was a young guy. And his family, doing as families will do, they circled the wagon, everybody gathered at his house for that time of grief. And go figure, a couple of them got headaches because, well, it's a stressful time. His brother and his sister-in-law both decided that they'd take something to take the edge off.
Boy, was that a bad idea.
Yeah, and they both died. His brother, whose name was Stanley, died that very same day, and his sister-in-law, Teresa, died 2 days later. Several days later, Mary McFarland, Paula Prince, and Mary Reiner each died unexpectedly. None of these people knew each other. They didn't have anything in common. Well, okay, they had one thing in common.
Okay.
They had taken each, prior to their death, an extra strength Tylenol.
Whoa.
Yeah. Mary Kellerman, the 12-year-old girl,
Yeah.
her parents, because she had a sore throat, had given her an extra strength Tylenol.
I don't understand.
Yeah, what's this got to do with them dying? How'd they die?
No, well, I don't understand why anybody would, first of all, give a 12-year-old extra strength anything, but second
It was
of
the
all,
80s.
for a sore throat, that's
I
I
think that it was. I think that wasn't her only symptom. I think that was the main symptom.
Okay.
Adam Janus had taken the extra strength Tylenol just before he died, and his brother and sister-in-law had also taken pills from the same bottle. Turned out, each of these 7 people had unknowingly consumed a pill that was laced with potassium cyanide.
That's not great.
No!
It's not really something the body craves.
Not at all. It's extremely toxic to the human body. What potassium cyanide does is it stops the tissues in your body from being able to take up the oxygen that's in your bloodstream, which means that you die from histotoxic hypoxia, which literally is your body cannot absorb the oxygen. It's a lethal dose of potassium cyanide is somewhere between 200 or 300 milligrams, which is a really, really small dosage. if we try and put that into a frame of reference for people to, think about in an everyday scenario, 200 milligrams is about 300 to 400 grains of sugar.
Huh.
That's not a lot.
Not a whole lot.
So it doesn't take a lot of this stuff to kill you. Now, once it was that Tylenol was the link between these people, panic broke out. People were throwing Tylenol away. Stores were yanking it off of the shelves. Johnson & Johnson, who is the parent company of McNeil Consumer Products, who made Tylenol at the time, and I honestly don't know if they're still the ones making it.
Johnson & Johnson still makes it.
Well, but I mean, McNeil Consumer Products was
I
the
don't
one
think
who
so.
makes it, but I don't think they do it anymore. I'm guessing. They were in full-blown damage control mode, trying to figure out what was going on and why their product was killing people and how this poison got into their pills. Johnson & Johnson quickly put out a statement saying that the poison could not have been put in the pills in their manufacturing process, and it had to have happened somewhere after the pills had left their hands.
Right. I think that's fair.
It is. Well, and
It's easy enough to do.
well, but they had great evidence, because what they did is they tracked the lot numbers on the medication, the lethal doses of medication, and they figured out that the lot numbers were from medication that was produced at two different plants, one in Puerto Rico and one in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that'd be hard.
That'd be really hard to have it introduced at the manufacturing level.
And besides which, that stuff would have wound up being distributed all over the place, not just Northeast Chicago. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, and that's a good point. Thank you, Joe. I don't know if I specified here that this is all happening in a suburb or a larger area of Chicago, kind of around where the O'Hare Airport is now. There's a bunch of suburban areas, and that's where this is all happening. This is probably a good point to stop the story and explain something about Tylenol for any of our listeners who aren't young enough to know this.
Like me. It's not just Tylenol, right? It's pills.
Well, it's pills, yes. It's
Yeah.
pills in general, but a lot of this is related to Tylenol, specifically their acetaminophen is what
Yeah.
they were using. It's their acetaminophen tablets, or caplets, I should say.
Yeah.
Capsules.
Capsules, yeah.
Capsules. Today, when you go into the store and you buy any medicine and you look at the bottle, there's usually a couple of seals on the bottle.
We're talking about over-the-counter medication.
Over-the-counter medication.
Not
Well, it's
prescription
usually
stuff.
usually the bottle's in a box that's sealed, and then there's a
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I looked up the regulations on what has to have what, and it's really too boring to go into. But typically, there's 1 to 2 layers of protection before you get to the box.
Sure.
But the point is, when you buy over-the-counter medication now, typically there's some kind of plastic shrink wrap seal on the lid. Maybe it's got printing on it or perforations, so it's very obvious if it's been removed or messed with. And then when you open up the lid, there's some kind of seal on the top of the bottle.
which is a big pain in the ass to get off. We all know.
Yeah.
But it's, it's plastic or it's foil or paper or something like that. That is what we are used to.
Didn't used to be that way.
Didn't used to be that way, because in the up until that point, a bottle of pills was sealed with the lid.
Yep.
And you open the lid, and there's that silly piece of cottony material, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds safe.
Well, it was safe back in the days when there weren't psychos poisoning your pills.
Well, yeah, I think it speaks to some of the about how naive industries were about people wanting to do harm to others via their products. People just didn't think it would ever happen.
Yeah.
Well, people didn't do that kind of crap.
Yeah,
Until
no.
this came along, and now it happens. I mean, as we all know, there were copycats of this. So.
It happens all the
Razor
time.
blades
Now
and
that-
apples, it's
Yeah.
hard.
Now that the idea is out there, you pretty much have to seal everything up.
You have to, and all of the products that we get now that are sealed, there was laws passed, ironically enough, called the Tylenol bill, which requires that be put into place. We should also, while we're talking about the medication, we should probably talk about the pills themselves. As we alluded to a little bit earlier, extra strength Tylenol and a lot of other over-the-counter medication came in a capsule. It's not a solid pill. It's not a gel-coated pill. It's not what we're used to now.
It's more like what you get vitamins, like specific vitamins in these days.
Yep.
Yeah, there's still
Or
lots
diet
of stuff
pills.
Yeah.
there's lots of stuff that comes in capsules still.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not nearly as common as it is. But for anybody who doesn't know, it's two pieces that go together, almost like a Russian nesting doll. They fit together and they seal.
They slide
well, I guess
together.
it's one inside the other. So
Yeah, one
Russian
inside
nesting
the other. They're
dolls.
rounded on the ends. They're very easy to pull open. And
You
dump
guys
the
know what these
contents
things
out
are.
of.
Yes.
Everybody knows what these
Yeah,
things
well,
are. Sure.
they became super popular because they were easy to swallow, unlike like a dry aspirin.
Yeah, they're also, a lot of health nuts these days, you can fill your own capsules. You can just get whatever you want. So-
And that is the Achilles heel of the capsule
Yeah.
when it comes to medication, is
Yeah.
it can be opened and the medicine can be taken out, or in this case, added to.
Or
which-
substituted for.
Exactly, which is a big problem. And that's the reason that a lot of things now are gel coats or whatever they are, so that these over-the-counter medications can't easily be tampered with.
I think it also is worth noting that the way that Johnson & Johnson handled this whole thing, I don't know if we were going to talk about this or not, but it's been praised as pretty much one of the best corporation handlings of a huge
Yes.
disaster like this of
Yeah.
all times.
And,
so I think that's probably worth mentioning a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, we will definitely.
It went really well for
We
them.
will talk about the good
Okay.
and the bad.
Great.
It was kind of disastrous for them.
Oh, yeah.
Although, at the same time, I mean, I would be looking at this and I'd be saying, okay, I'm pitching up my Tylenol, and then I'd go to the store to buy some other pain reliever, and I would say, oh, no Johnson & Johnson, but then I think to myself, well, what about the other manufacturers? I mean, it's just as
Yeah.
likely to be tainted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the issue that we'll talk about in a bit here, because we're going to get into some of that copycat stuff.
Great.
But back to the story. So at this point in the story, they figured out that Tylenol is the culprit, and someone was taking the bottles of extra strength Tylenol, taking them out of the store, opening the capsules, adding the potassium cyanide to them, on the order of magnitude of thousands of times a lethal dose. So this person was dumping a lot of that stuff in there. Then putting them back together, putting them back in the bottle, and somehow getting the bottle back on the shelf for some other unsuspecting person to buy and consume.
It wasn't just pills full. It wasn't just a capsule full of that. It also had acetaminophen in it.
I believe that based on the fact that it was, 200 to 300 milligrams is enough to kill you.
Right.
And it was up to 10,000 times the required dose. I have a feeling that it was probably no medication and all cyanide.
That'd be my guess too, because I think acetaminophen, Tylenol specifically, is typically 500 milligrams. At least it is now. I don't know if it was then. That's one of the differences between Tylenol and Advil. I don't know if you know this or not, but Advil is 250 milligrams a pill.
Okay.
And Tylenol is 500 typically, so you can take more Advil in a dose, right? You can better whatever. But anyways, I just thought I'd ask if it was.
I'm pretty
you know,
sure
it'd
that it
be-
was
it's-
nothing but cyanide.
It seems like it would be
potassium cyanide.
hard to get that much into a capsule.
I'm pretty sure that they were just dumping out all the
Yeah,
medication
yeah.
at that
Yeah,
point.
probably. Why not? Go for the gusto.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not like the person's gonna taste it in their food or something.
No, because it's a pill. You just swallow
Yeah.
it.
It's kind of surprising if whoever it was, managed to do all this without poisoning themselves.
They had to have some working knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to presume that they knew how to handle this substance without killing themselves.
And also where to get it or how to make it.
Yeah, well, and there's some of that, as we've been alluding to, we'll be getting into, as always, in the theories.
Of course.
But the police and the FBI, the FBI got involved,
Of course they did.
began collecting pain reliever from stores all over Chicago. Now, because as we said, they were all in the same area of town, the investigators focused there first.
Do you know what suburbs of Chicago? Names?
The neighborhoods were, there was 5 of them. It was Elk Grove, Winfield, Arlington Heights, Elmhurst, and Lyle. Those were the neighborhoods or the suburbs where this happened.
I like that you can actually pronounce Lyle.
Lyle?
So there's a weird S in there. I don't know. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
cool. So that's a good thing to know.
We don't know exactly how many bottles of this medicine were tainted.